welcome to CyberAdeptness YouTube channel. My name is Karen Baez, and today I'm going to go over the high-level process overview of the items that we leverage on all of our services. That's as the process baseline for every single process or service offering that we have. We are actually leveraging all of the guidance that has been developed by different U.S. government agencies to comply with the Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002 and 2014. This includes all of the guidance created and provided by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, aka NIST. In fact, this is the root of all of our services. But, of course, they're not the only one providing guidance. We also leverage guidance from the National Security Agency, NSA, the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, the General Services Administration, GSA, the Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA, and the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Now, like I said, our root is NIST, so all of the guidance that we leverage from NIST is then mapped to different standards or requirements that are imposed on different sectors by different U.S. agencies or non-U.S. agencies. These include, but is not limited to, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which impacts the healthcare sector, the FFIEC, Federal Financial Institutions Examination Council, which impacts the finance sector, the International Organizations for Standardization. A lot of the requirements that the U.S. government has in non-government agency actually emanates from this particular agency, so we incorporate that within our root level processes that emanate again from NIST. The Center for Internet Security, CIS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards is also incorporated and mapped to our NIST processes. And NISA, which is the European Network and Information Security Agency, they actually have been around for decades, even before some of the guidance came out here in the US. So they have a lot of amazing information. The GDPR, which is the European General Data Protection Regulation, sort of similar to the US Privacy Act. It addresses, again, personally identifiable information. So again, that's all integrated into the processes. And of course, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So we use, again, guidelines and standards for many other sectors and the private environment in order to develop the processes uniquely for each individual organization. Now, it is essential to understand that a lot of the processes are actually focused on the 800-53. Now, the 800-53, it is the main puzzle that is used by every single U.S. agency because it actually has the list of security and privacy controls for the information systems and different organizations. A lot of these requirements are imposed by different agencies. This includes the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, FedRAMP, which focuses on cloud service providers. So if you are trying to offer services or to the U.S. government that are cloud-based, you will have to be certified by FedRAMP. The other agency, the other standard that leverage this is DoD. They actually have the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, and this is a requirement that they have on all of the DoD contractors. Now, typically uses the 800-171, which is a smaller fraction of controls than the 800-53, but the 800-53 controls is still applicable. Again, it all depends on the requirements. The 853 is also required by no government agencies that are processing Internal Revenue Service informations in specific taxes. So they have a publication that we leverage in the process, and again, all of that emanates from the 853. And every single U.S. federal agency will mold the 800-53 to its needs, to the technology, to the sector that is impacted, and then that requirement is passed down to any federal government contractor. So again, everything that we do emanates or is surrounded the 800-53. And it's also essential to understand that this process, the 800-53, has been actually adopted worldwide and modified for many, many organizations outside of the federal government. Again, the size and the sector is irrelevant when it comes to applying this guidance. However, when it comes to the process, a lot of individuals think that it's just NIST 800-53. And that is very far from reality. The truth of the matter is that there's over 3,000 different pieces that the National Institute of Standards and Technology have put together, and a lot of other pieces and guidance that have been put into place by many, many other agencies. But for the purpose of this, I think it's essential to understand the other key elements, key pieces of this puzzle that you may not have heard before. One essential piece is the 800-39, which basically is managing information systems risk for the organization, mission, and the information system view. This particular document actually provides details by the different tiers, and the tiers are then tied to the NIST 800-37, which is Management Information Security, Risk Management Framework for Information Systems and Organizations, which is a system lifecycle approach for security and privacy. Now, these three are essential for every single puzzle piece that NIST develops. However, again, they're not the only one. There's many other pieces. The next piece that is essential is the NIST 800-60, which is the Guide for Mapping Types of Info and Information Systems to Security Categories. While many of the categories are actually linked or tied to the federal government, you still can find a lot of data that can be linked to non-federal government agencies, and it's still an essential guide to familiarize yourself. The next puzzle piece is the 800-1 which is the System Security Engineering considerations for a multidisciplinary approach in the engineering of trustworthy, secure systems. Excuse me. The next puzzle piece is the 800-171. Now we know that this is used highly by DoD under CMMC process. This is basically selected controls for protecting control unclassified information in non-federal systems and organizations. Then we have the 800-207, and this, of course, is a very hot topic today. It addresses zero trust architecture. And last but not least, we have the 800-144, which is the Guidelines on Security and Privacy in Public Cloud Computing. Of course, many of these topics we will dive into a little bit deeper on the upcoming videos, but as you can see, it's not just the 800-53. There is indeed multiple puzzle pieces. In fact, there's over 3,000 different pieces from NIST alone. That doesn't include every other puzzle piece that will come out from all the different agencies. So for all of our processes, we strictly focus on the NIST Information Systems Risk Management Framework. And to understand that particular framework, we like to break down the risk management into 5 different components. Now, a lot of people will say all of this is cybersecurity. Well, we beg to differ, but we will address that at a later time. The first section this is the most important section where we are focused on is the information assurance and security. In this, we have 3 major components. We have governance, security, leadership, which fall under tier 1. Information assurance, that is the liaison on the middle component of information, because they have to handle tier 1 and tier 3. And then we have defense in depth, which is tier 3. Once these 3 components are in place, then we have the last 2 components that are falling under the cybersecurity framework, and that is defensive security and offensive security. And we'll definitely go over all of these at a later time. But again, we like to separate all of the processes into components and into tiers. Now you're trying to find out, okay, what are the tiers? Well, the risk management tiers, when it comes to the NIST framework, is 3 of them. The first tier, which a lot of companies don't seem to understand, is tier 1, which addresses the risk from an organizational perspective. And this is where the framing takes place. This is where we go in and try to understand your organization's mission, your business objectives, the sectors that you are trying to target when it comes to providing your services, the different environments that your systems may be at. There's much more, but I'm not going to go over those details at this point. However, I will say that there's many failures today, 2 decades after the fact, that emanate from failures in this particular tier. The second tier addresses the risk from the mission and business process perspective and leverage tier 1 risk decisions, activities, and context. Now, in this particular tier, we're digging a little bit deeper into the organization. We want to have an understanding of the enterprise network architecture. We want to have an understanding of the security principles that have been implemented, across the enterprise, and the policies and procedures that are impacting, the enterprise level, the systems, the users, and anything related to enterprise level processes that will have a major impact on the next tier, the tier 3. Now, tier 3 is the tier that everybody has been focused on. Basically addresses the risk from an information system perspective and guided by the risk context, risk decisions, and risk activities of both tier 1 and tier 2. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of failures that are actually emanating on tier 1 and tier 2 because a lot of companies continue to focus only on tier 3, and we're here to make sure you understand that tier 3 alone will not function. That's why we continue to see failures left and right. That said, there's a number of families that we tend to break down by tier. When it comes to tier 1, we're looking at the management of how you are establishing your security program, of how you're planning the process. So the controls that fall under tier 1 management are program management, planning, risk assessment, assessment authorization and monitoring, personally identifiable information processing and transparency, systems and services acquisitions, and supply chain risk management. The next tier on the risk management addresses operational level controls. Excuse me. These controls include awareness and training, configuration management, contingency planning, incident response, maintenance, media protection, physical and environmental protection, personnel security, and systems and information integrity. And the last but not least, on tier 3, we go a little bit deeper into the technical at the system level. And in this aspect, we are trying to identify the access control processes, the audit and accountability, the identification and authentication, and the systems and communication protection. That's it. When it comes to security, once you understand the process, you will be able to have a positive return on investment, because you will have a governance program that addresses many aspects of your organization. You'll be able to ensure that the administration, the corporate, and the board members are fully knowledgeable with the different processes. You want to make sure that you have the correct policies and procedures in place, the correct personnel, the correct committees, a clear mission and objective, and you want to make sure that you are taking accountability for everything that goes wrong and take the appropriate steps to fix it, and you work in a stewardship manner. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a blessed day.